All right, 2022 American Traditional Tattoo. Hopefully I didn't just make you sick just then. 2022 American Traditional Tattoo Tour Collection update. I guess I'm not really sure what to call this video, but I made one of these in 2021. If you're interested, you can click the card up here on the right hand corner and watch that video. But 2022 was, all things considered, a pretty good year for me, at least. It went okay. I got a new job, switched careers. I don't know what that sound is. So that was good, professionally and personally. I also got to move, and that was nice. Been trying to move to Pittsburgh for a long time, and now we're here, and we're happy about it. So I celebrated those professional and personal milestones with, as I often do, new tattoos. So as a result, I got a lot more tattoos than I normally would in a year. So this year, I'm gonna show you all the tattoos I got.
Finally awake.
So from December 2021 to October 26, 2022, I got 13 tattoos in total. Most of them went onto my legs, but 2 of them went onto my chest. So in September of last year, let's start there. My dog, Doders, who was about 13 years old and who had a range of health issues, chronic health issues from when she was very ill before she was adopted. She passed away. It was sudden, not necessarily unexpected, but very, very sudden. So grieved, dealt with that trauma, and then 3 months later, I drove down from Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I was living, to Lakewood Electric Tattoo just outside Cleveland, and Liz Marie, who is at Lady Sea Legs on Instagram, made a really beautiful pet portrait for me. This is the second commemorative pet portrait that I have. Means a lot to me, and Lakewood Electric Tattoo is an absolutely awesome shop with an incredible artist. I would really, really highly recommend it. All right, January, I get an appointment with Nicole Notes at Fish Ladder Tattoo Company or Co. in Lansing, Michigan. In our email exchange, I say I want a frog kind of anthropomorphized, doing something maybe a samurai or a gentlemanly sort of frog, and we settle on that gentlemanly frog guy. And when I get there, she shows me the line drawing. It is excellent. She puts it on my left shin. Shortly thereafter, Nicole, she was planning to move back to Traverse City, so she's back in Traverse City, in Michigan, where she tattoos at Front Street Tattoo. Nicole's great. I've not been to Front Street. I'm sure it's great if Nicole's there. And then I should also say Fish Ladder is a super cool shop with a lot of talented artists in a really cool college town. So if you're anywhere near there, you should get a tattoo there. All right, so this brings us to February, which is both my and Victoria, my girlfriend's, birth month. I get 2 tattoos, coincidentally, that month. The first is with Keith Opalinski at Electric Park Tattoo in Detroit, Michigan. It's a really nice shop located in Detroit's Eastern Market. If you've never been there, it's an awesome area of Detroit. So I asked Keith for his take on one of my favorite designs by Fred Marquand. I'm kind of anal retentive about dragons, particularly in the American traditional sort of style. Sometimes I feel like their heads can be slightly off, or the proportions can be off, or they're just somewhat hard to read. Not always, but it's one of the few designs where I'm like really anal retentive. This is the one design that every time I see it, it just looks perfectly proportioned to me. So I asked for the Marquand dragon. Keith kills it, and you should also, while you're on his page, check out Out of Stock Toys, where he makes custom toys. They're really funny and really cool. About a week later, I visit Dawn Smith on Instagram. She's Pretty Tough Tattoos at Harlequin Tattoo over in Hamtramck, Michigan. I get this little mummy sarcophagus guy in the back of my left ankle, just below that fresh dragon that was still in the process of healing. Took about an hour. Super easy tattoo. I'd found it on one of her older flash books. Great conversation, awesome shop. In May, I go back to Electric Park Tattoo, and Keith adds a gravestone onto the front side of my left ankle, just below the gentlemanly frog that Nicole had finished. Then, at the end of that month, big sort of, or multiple sort of milestones for me, I get my first chest tattoo to celebrate the bigger milestone, my new job and a new career. So I go to Becca Lerner at White Moth Studio in Indianapolis, Indiana. At that time, I had 2 tattoos from Becca, my wrist cuff over there, and a heron on my right leg. So I get up at 4 a.m. I drive to Indianapolis for about 4, maybe 5 hours. We get all of the lines and the shading and a bit of green color on my collar piece here. Thought I could push through the pain to get it done, in one sitting.
No.
I was wrong. Thus far, the collar has been my most painful tattoo, especially on the sternum central part here. That was very spicy. So I end up going back later, make the trip again, and for, about an hour, Becca knocks out the rest of the collar. Absolutely love this tattoo. It's one of my favorites, and Becca's amazing. If you don't follow her, she's Becca.Lerner on Instagram. you should follow her. All right, so in June, just before I moved to Pittsburgh, I go back to Lakewood Electric Tattoo in Ohio, but this time to get a piece from Lauren Vandevier. A few months earlier, Lauren had opened her books up. I immediately put in a request for a piece of flash via email, and I somehow get on her books. So flash forward, on the day of the tattoo, I have no idea what to expect. I get there early, I thumb through her line book, and honestly, I would have probably been happy with any of the designs that Lauren had put in there, but I opted for this lady head. I really love Lauren's lady heads. They're beautiful and detailed. This one went on the back of my right calf, which was slightly painful. It got a little bit close to the knee ditch. I don't have any tattoos in my knee ditches yet. I will, and it makes me dread it. But I really, really love this tattoo, and I also really like how both Keith's dragon and Lauren's lady head look side by side. I feel like the colors are complementary and the designs are well proportioned, all that sort of stuff. So I really like it. We moved to Pittsburgh at the end of June. We've been trying to get to Pittsburgh, like genuinely trying to move here for the last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. The pandemic and then work stuff got in the way. Anyway, long story short, we moved and we're happy about it. We landed where we wanted to be. And so to celebrate, I messaged a lot of artists in Pittsburgh and sort of the surrounding areas and states, but nobody really had availability, not for, several months. But then I caught a break. Nick Ackman, who co-owns and operates the Pittsburgh Tattoo Art Museum over in Shadyside with Jill Kriznick, has a last-minute opening. I look through his designs online and I get smitten with his Stony St. Clair eagle design. It's perfect. So if you haven't, I should add, watch the 1981 documentary Stony Knows How. It is available for free on Folk Streams. Just Google the name and you'll find it, and I'll also put a link in the description below as well. It's a really great film. It's essential viewing if you're interested in traditional tattooing, and I would say the same of the Pittsburgh Tattoo Art Museum. If you're anywhere nearby, you really should visit. The museum is free. It's open to the public. They do take donations, and you should donate to them. It's an awesome collection, and Nick, who runs Blue Letter Books, is not only a great artist, but he's also an author and a historian. Anyway, it is a great shop, and Nick's tattoo marks the first of many that I have gotten and will get in Pennsylvania. In August, Victoria and I take a trip over to Philadelphia. I had somehow never managed to get there. I got 2 tattoos from Henry Hablak back when he and I were both living in Atlanta. Sometime around 2016, he posted a flash sheet with a design on it. It was the speed skull as a kind of like deity or king or something. Absolutely loved it. I bookmarked it and I planned to get it. But Henry moved back to Philly before I finished up my dissertation research and got my PhD. And then I would later move to Nashville, Tennessee. So in 2022, when the opportunity presented itself, I drove over to Old City Tattoo, and that's old with an E. And Henry tattooed that speed skull king or deity design on my upper right thigh. If you're interested in folk art, folklore, mythology, and the occult, you honestly have to look up Henry. Also, while you're there, you should click the link that takes you over to his website to look at his merch and art. I actually bought 2 small original paintings that are just like behind the camera during the pandemic. They are 2 of my favorite things, and they did help during the pandemic. Remember how I said that I contacted a bunch of artists as soon as I moved to Pittsburgh back at the end of June, and none of them had availability for a while? Well, several of them got back to me with availability, and as a result, September was an expensive and painful month for me. So, first week of September, I get up at 3 a.m. and drive 6 hours from Pittsburgh back to Indianapolis to see Becca Lerner again. She pulls out this eagle design, makes a few minor adjustments, and she knocks out the entire tattoo in something like 2, maybe 3 hours. I think it was around 2. It was painful, but far less so than the collar had been. I had applied some numbing cream after the collar tattoo, so when I go there, I apply a little bit of it because I really wanted to be able to sit through the entire tattoo in one sitting and not have to make the trip multiple times. It helped a bit, but it still hurt. 2 weeks later, I head over to Lady Moon Tattoo in Pittsburgh, and I get a cool-looking cowboy frog tattooed on my left outer thigh. I would love to take credit for the design, but it was a piece of flash that Abby Rose had posted on her Instagram. The tattoo is great. Abby is a great artist, and I will be going back sometime soon, probably at the start of next year, for her to add a few gap fillers on my legs. I've got a few holes that I want to kind of plug with some small pieces. 1 week later, I drive down to Torch and Dagger Tattoo in Pittsburgh. Christopher John, that's Christopher with a K, he's in town. He tends to bounce back and forth between Pittsburgh and Los Angeles. Chris's work is really clean. I've bookmarked like 3 or 4 different knee tattoos that he's done in the past. I really like how he draws Peo-Knee flowers, especially on knees. So this tattoo takes maybe 4-ish plus hours to complete. It took a while. It was very, very painful, less acutely so, I would say, than the collar tattoo, but it was long and painful process. My knee was super swollen for maybe a day, 2, 3, but it healed beautifully, and I love how crisp and bright it is. At some point, I'll get the other knee done with maybe a rose or a spiderweb to match my elbow over here. Not sure. And last but not least, on October 26th, 2 days ago, at the time of recording this, I drove to Tattoo Paradise in the Adams Morgan neighborhood of Washington, D.C. to get tattooed by Mario Teide. I discovered Teide's work about the same time that I found out about Henry Hablak's work. It's really interesting and creative, and while I do hope to make it over to Europe and to visit Teide's shop, Red Point Tattoo, in London, I really couldn't pass up the chance to get tattooed by him while he was visiting the States. He was in New York and then D.C., and D.C. was only 4 hours away. So, you know the drill. I woke up super early. I drove like 4 or 5 hours. I get there. He hands me a line drawing book, and I pick out this cat design. There were a few designs that I was interested in, like a dragon, a hand, or a Hanya mask, but I really liked the cat. The colors are super trippy and interesting. It fits perfectly, I think, with my collection, and especially so with the 4 tattoos I have from Sean Williams, aka Squishy Eyes, from my time living in Nashville, Tennessee. So this year was filled with a lot of tattoos, more so than I would normally get in a year, like 3 or 4 maybe in a year. So it was expensive and sometimes painful year, but I'm really happy with and proud of the tattoos and all the artwork that I have on my body. It makes me enjoy and feel more kind of at home in my body, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Next year's goal is to get a back piece, a single unified image rather than going piecemeal, that route that I've gone on my arms and my legs. I'm 100% getting this done by Becca Lerner. I'm not quite settled on what the design will be. Probably a lady head or a scene with a more than just the head of a lady with ornamental framing, kind of like my cuff or the collar. But that's the plan for 2023. If you're interested in following along and getting updates on the back piece, consider subscribing. Or if you want to learn something about content production, digital storytelling, and pop culture, you might also subscribe. So thanks for watching. Take care. Be safe.